How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
It is a rivalry forged by sheer competition and quality of cricket over the years in ICC men's event. That is what Australia and South Africa offer us, and that is the game we build up to. On Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Match Day at Rawalpindi, where New Zealand got the better of Bangladesh, is where this game shall be played, and we will build up to it with Wasim Jaffer in studio with me. Quite an exciting fixture, isn't it, Wasim, given both teams have removed their pre-tournament run of indifferent form aside and started so positively. Today should be a good one.
Yeah, it is indeed. I mean, apart from India, Pakistan, this is probably one of the biggest games. Two powerhouses who are, look very formidable title contenders. So looking forward to it. But unfortunately, the weather holds it right and we get a good game.
Oh, come on, Wasim. I thought we'll save it for some time. You've just stolen my thunder and the raindrops away. But you're right. Wasim Jaffer has just told you something that we've just heard from Rawalpindi. Unfortunately, rain, steady drizzle, covers on, toss delayed. But that shouldn't bother us. We're going to build up to this. It is South Africa, after all. At an ICC event, sooner or later, against all odds, Firdaus Munda, our South Africa correspondent, there will be rain. And who better for the rain to come against than Australia? As I also welcome Ashton Agar. I'll come to Ashton in just a second, but Firdaus, South Africa bring the rain with them, even to Rawalpindi.
Yeah, I don't have any answers. I'm sitting in Cape Town. The sun is shining. The sky is blue. I mean, maybe all tournaments should actually be played down here on the west coast of South Africa. But it's very unfortunate because I don't want to see a reduced game. I really want to see how these teams go across 50 overs head to head. They've got such a great tournament record against each other. And the last time they met in a 50 over game was at the 2023 World Cup semi-final, and that was a low-scoring game, and it was really a thriller. I know that the result says Australia won with, I think it was 2.3 overs to spare, but I was there, and I remember there were really times in that match when I thought South Africa are going to defend this total and going to get to a final. So I'm expecting this to be good, but that rain.
Yeah. Let's hope that the rain clears and it becomes a moot point by the end of the day. But even before that semi-final, I distinctly remember the group game in the World Cup, which really sent out the statement for South Africa. At that time, we thought, Australia, 2 losses out of 2, this is all going to go pear-shaped. Ashton can remind us of what happened, since we have no memory of how that World Cup finished. But Ashton, also tell me a little bit about what the sentiment is like over the last couple of days. I think similar statements were made about Australia in this tournament, in the absence of the key players and whatnot, that, there's a chance they may not have the tournament that we expect the world champions to. And after the game against England, suddenly Australia looked the team to beat.
Yeah, it's funny, and I think that happens a lot with this Australian team at the moment. Often written off and often successful, but it's a great thing to have. I think the boys love having their backs against the wall. They love copying some criticism here and there. They love hearing that they're a depleted team because there's a lot of guys that are really ready to take some good opportunities there and play some really hard competitive cricket. But overall, they just love this tournament style of play. I think it makes every single game so important, especially with the Champions Trophy. You had to hit the ground running. It's exactly what they did, and it sets up an amazing match today. Two similar teams, I would say.
Tell me something. I want to go deeper into this. How do the Aussies look at the South Africans in men's cricket?
Would you like me to get into that one?
Of course. Yes.
Well, to be honest, there's a lot of respect. We think they were always a dangerous opponent every single time we come against them, because you've always got players who in South Africa who can win the game for them. Rabada with the ball. I remember playing in one of Rabada's first matches at the Wanderers, and he came in and he bowled about 150k an hour as a 19-year-old potentially, and everyone was going, who is this guy? He was phenomenal. Heinrich Klaassen, the way he hits the ball out of the ground. Marco Janssen, a guy who can bowl 40k, swing the ball, is 7'13" and can hit sixes at the back end of an inning. So there's a lot of players we believe that can take the game away from us at any point. And then I haven't even mentioned David Miller, who has a known history of finishing clutch games. So that's how we look at them. We prepare very well for South Africa, and it's always a tough game.
You know, it has been tough. It has been tough for Australia in recent events as well. Let's just look at their head-to-head record in ICC events. Australia win the big ones. They won that Eden Gardens semi-final that Firdaus speaks of. But if we look since 2016, it's quite a staggering record South Africa have managed to forge, Wasim. 16-5. In ICC events, it's 3-4. It's even Stevens. In Asia, 1-1. Since 2023, it's been close. But it's quite something that the overall record for a lot of teams isn't like that when it comes to playing Australia.
Yeah, it is very one-sided since 2016, and a lot of respect for that for South Africa, because it's not easy to have that record against Australia. But they've done that. I remember South Africa beaten them 3-0 in one of the one-day series where Tabrez Shamsi and Maharaj bowled really well. So yeah, they are one of the teams who's got a little bit of upper hand, but knowing Australia in the ICC events, they do put up a fight, and they know how to win big games.
Yeah, I mean, we always say this in India, don't we, that if you want to do well in an ICC event, you need to know you have to beat Australia at some point. And that's the true test of it. Firdaus, fair to say that South Africa have actually managed to achieve that better than most. They get the better of Australia more than a lot of other big nations.
Yeah, they do. And I think that's because Australia tend to bring out the best in South Africa. Ashton spoke about the respect between the two teams, but I also think there's a really healthy level of competitiveness. And, for South Africa, they don't have the Ashes. They don't have a rivalry like India, Pakistan. So this is really the big contest. It's like when the Springboks play the All Blacks in rugby. That's the team that you want to beat. And just speaking of those series that South Africa won, I mean, I remember the one just before COVID in 2020. It was when Manus Labuschagne, as we call him over here, came to South Africa back for the first time. And that was the series, I think, that Wasim mentioned, where South Africa blanked Australia 3-0. They did it again before the 2023 World Cup. They were on a losing streak. They came back and they won the series as well. So South Africa have a habit of that. But I think there's something about a major tournament. And a major tournament is about how you pace your form and how you kind of know when to peak. This is a very short tournament, and they've both started really well. But both these teams have habits of starting a little bit slowly. And I'm glad to see actually that hasn't happened this time.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. And it's nice that you actually brought up Labuschagne and his South African roots. We spent some time with Ashton talking about English and his English roots in the last game. It's very surprising how the Aussies have this diverse group of players playing for them. But Ashton has his own memories of Manus Labuschagne, and that goes back to an ODI in 2023. We go to Bloemfontein. I want to ask Ashton about this game in particular, because I'm sure it was the kind of game that made you feel good as an international cricketer, Ashton. We go back September 2023, low-scoring thriller, and Ashton Agar was shining with ball in bat, partnership with Manus Labuschagne as well. Take us through that one in your memories, Ashton.
Yeah, it was an amazing game, and a game we really celebrated as a team, to be honest. It's always nice to come back in a game when you're way behind the game. So we thought we did really well, to be honest. 222 all out on a wicket we thought was quite nice. We thought we'd done a good job. Bavuma batted beautifully, making a nice 100 there. Just controlled the whole innings on. Whilst I say the wicket was good, it was quite slow during the day in particular. So at night time, I guess the dew did come in a little bit. The wicket sheened up a bit. We lost some early wickets and we kept losing wickets. And Manus, I think, came in as another concussion substitute. He seems to be the best ever at doing that. He came out and honestly, all guns blazing, got another opportunity, hit the ball in the middle of the bat at will, which was beautiful. And then it was my time to come and bat with Manus, and we knew that there was a lot of time left in the game. So what that innings was about not taking too many risks and just getting the job done for Australia, forming a partnership. And once you get into that beautiful flow state of batting, things just seem to happen. You get a little bit of luck here and there. I think I got a free hit at one stage and got a ball over the ropes when I was struggling for a boundary at one time in the innings, and we got over the line. Albeit a bit bittersweet. I re-strained my calf that game, so I'd been out for quite a while with a calf tear. Re-strained it while I was batting that game, which subsequently meant that I missed the one-day World Cup. However, great memories of that game.
And of course, who was it that replaced you as a result of that calf strain in the one-day World Cup?
Who did replace me?
Labuschagne. It was Marnus.
Oh, it was Marnus. I couldn't. There you go. Well, good on him. He's won a World Cup because of it.
Well,
he's a fantastic player, isn't he? He's doing a great job.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Now that I remember how it played out in the final in Ahmedabad, I would have, with due respect to Ashton, I'd have rather had you in that team, on that squad, than Labuschagne. Would have been nice to get through the middle order. Get through in the middle order. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, we don't talk about the 2023 World Cup. What we can talk about is the Australia-South Africa rivalry. Ashton Agar shared some beautiful memories of it. Speaks of how they take South Africa seriously. Firdaus talks about how South Africa and Australia, they tend to bring out the best in each other. Dale Steyn has his own memories of the contest.
I think based on what past teams had, I would sometimes go into a contest against Australia wanting to do a little bit more than I felt I was capable of. Sometimes thinking that in order to beat them that I had to be better than myself. And I experienced that the first time I went to Australia in my first ODI series, and I actually got smacked all around the park. It was when you could have substitute players, and I got subbed twice, and it was a terrible feeling. And I realized that's not the way that you have to play against these guys. You have to be at your best, obviously, but you don't need to perform outside of who you are. And that was just because I think I got caught up in what everybody else in terms of the media and the world and everything was talking about when South Africa played against Australia. And the next few times that South Africa played against Australia, we didn't really focus on any of that. We just said, okay, we're going to focus on ourselves. We're going to do exactly how we play our cricket, and we're going to push them as hard as we can. And it worked for a whole bunch of years. Every time we went to Australia, we seemed to beat them in the test series. So that was kind of the new recipe on how we were going to handle things. And I'm not sure how the guys do it now in the current South African team. There's a new crop of players, and the wheel goes round, and everyone has their turn and their way in which they do things. But I think they play so often against each other these days, and they play so much with each other, that the fear factor of what somebody is capable of or what somebody has done in the past is not really in the front part of their minds as much anymore. It's probably more in the back. Winning the first test series in Australia for South Africa was pretty amazing. It was in 2008. AB and JP Duminy and I think Callis, they all scored runs. All the bowlers kind of contributed. It was a high scoring game, but all the bowlers kind of contributed, and then the batters were just amazing in the first one in Perth. And then myself in particular in the second test in Melbourne, we were in a bit of a sticky situation, and myself and JP Duminy put on some runs. That was great. And then I managed to bag 10 for in that game. And that was fantastic. Probably my best test match that I've ever played. But the thing that stood out for me was when we got back into the dressing room, when we got into the bus to head back to the hotel, I could see what the win meant more to the guys that had been there before and had been absolutely belted. Callis, Boucher, Smith, some of the coaching staff, Neil McKenzie, you could see that they were hiding some scars, and the emotions came out on the bus. Some tears of joy. And that was just an amazing thing to be a part of, because once I got that feeling, that was like, I don't want to get rid of that. That was not changing a test match. That was changing people's lives, and that was when I was like, cool, this is why I play, and this is why when we play against Australia, this is what it means. And I think Australia have the same feeling now, and that's why we get these epic encounters and these amazing matches, and this fire versus fire.
You can sit back and listen to him all day when Dale Steyn gets into storytelling mode and goes down memory lane. Firdaus, anything at all that you want to pick up or that stands out for you from what Dale just shared with us yesterday?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I actually get quite emotional watching that. You know, I remember being a young journalist when South Africa beat Australia for the first time. It was something we never thought was possible. But to pick up from that, I think then what they went and did was beat them again and again. So 2012 and 2016 were two fabulous test wins. 2012, they just become the number one team in the world. And 2016, Dale Steyn actually got injured in the first test match. It was that shoulder injury that eventually ended his career. And my standout memory from that was when he got injured, Temba Bavuma enacted this stunning run out. It took him 0.014 seconds to run out David Warner. It changed the whole complexion of the test and the series. Vernon Philander then bowled Australia out in Hobart. And following on from that, then South Africa beat Australia at home for the first time since readmission in the 2018 series. But that test success hasn't really replicated itself on a one-day level, a white ball level. Of course, these two teams will meet again in June for the World Test Championship final, which I'm so excited about, because I actually think South Africa's test team has instilled a sense of belief along all the cricket structures in the country. They've come from nowhere, right? No one in the world had heard of Shukri Conrad, the test coach, really, before this test team went and won 7 on the bounce. And I hope that Rob Walter can sort of embody a similar thing with the white ball side.
All right. Well, making the final has now become the easy part, hasn't it, for those?
Yeah, I mean, over the last 2 years, South Africa have made so many finals. The women 2 senior finals, the under-19 girls have also made the final, and now, of course, the World Test Championship final. I think, we always said once South Africa win one, the floodgates are going to open and they're just going to win and win and win. And I keep talking about the Springboks because they are our model of excellence. But I think now it's about actually getting over the line and showing what they can do. The T20 World Cup final, they were oh so close, and but for a catch, but for a mistimed shot.
All right, Firdaus, stop it. Yeah, we don't need any of that right now. Stop. Shoo. Quiet. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. All right. On that note, though, but the reason we're enjoying ourselves and going into storytelling mode down memory lane is, if you're just joining us, it is a delayed toss at Rawalpindi. Unfortunately, the weather is not great. We hope it clears and we hope we get at least a full game or as close to it. But there's plenty that we can talk about in this tournament. We don't get the chance to actually focus on individuals as much with the amount of cricket that's being played. It's a good time to focus on the two captains. For those who wrote this in her preview as well, about the difference could be the use of the bowlers tactically, where bowling resources from both teams have, of course, been depleted going into this tournament. Steve Smith was creative in the game against England. Temba Bavuma has been very good with this team. So let's spend some time on the two captains and the stories behind using bowlers in 50 overs cricket and where sort of Steve Smith ranks. He's back as a captain, was he? Just your thoughts?
Well, I think he understands the subcontinent conditions really well.
Yeah.
He's got a very young, fast bowling attack. I'm talking about the experience at international level. But Steve Smith is a very smart operator. Even when Pat Cummins was not there, you could easily, give it to Steve Smith and expect that he's going to give you result. And he's like that. So I'm not surprised the way he uses his bowlers. And obviously, England still went on to get 350. But, where he did good was, that 350 could have been 360, 370, and things could have gone out of hand. And Temba is pretty much similar. He commands respect from his players. He's very sound, very methodical. He's among the runs. So he's getting respect from his players and is very sound. Somebody, you can rely, leads from the front. So I like what I see from Temba Bavuma.
Yeah, Ashton, you know him better than most others. Let's get into Steve Smith's way. It's been a long time. His career's taken some ups and downs, and here he is now. And whenever we see Steve Smith, we just see a different energy about him when he's captaining. What can you tell us about the man?
Yeah, we do, don't we? And I think he's got a very special read on the game. He really trusts that gut feeling. Honestly, sometimes when you watch him bat or when he pulls off a masterstroke in captaincy, the only way to describe it is like he's got God's hand in his brain. It's like he sees something that normal people can't see, and that's what everyone, what leads everyone to believe he's some sort of alien sometimes, But I think he's got just great conviction in his own ideas, in his gut feel, in his experience. But he's also willing to try new things as well. The other day, Marnus picked up a couple of really big wickets at the end of the innings, which could have taken the game from Australia. Whilst he got hit a few times, maybe Smith thought, look, taking the ball off, a guy that could spin the ball both ways, get the ball to bounce a bit lower, that could do some damage. And it actually did. And like Wasim said, he's been fantastic for Pat Cummins as a sounding board. Obviously, Steve was captain before what happened in South Africa. So he's very experienced in that part of his game, and when he's playing really well, I think he likes being captain too. I think it almost takes the pressure off his batting a bit because he immerses himself into the whole game rather than just in his own game.
When you talk about just how he reads the game, I wonder if there is a process or a way of going about it when you're not on the field that lends itself to it on it. I got to see a little bit of Steve Smith when he was in our studios during the last IPL. Seemed to be very quiet and he was fidgety. He couldn't sit still on a sofa watching the game, which is what we're supposed to do when you're doing punditry work. But take me through what he's like off the field. Is he a bit of a sucker for all the numbers and the stats that come in? How much does he talk to you and the rest of the players about things like what he expects or tactics off the field when you're not on the game?
No, I wouldn't say he's too deep in the game when he's off the field, and I don't think you can be as a player. And I think that is what gives him space to be so brilliant on the field. We've all heard the stories of him staying up all night during a test match, and I almost count that as on the field, to be fair. When a game is going on, he's on field 24/7, I think, and that's his bubble, and that's how he performs. But I think when he's away from the game, he detaches quite nicely. He's got different interests. I mean, he likes music. At one stage he was playing the guitar. He loves making coffees. I think he's taken up some golf now, probably to get some more competitiveness in his life, because he's a competitive beast. But in order to put so much time and energy into something, I feel you have to give yourself some space away from that. You need to let your brain figure out these big ideas as it does when you sleep or when you're just going for a walk or doing things that are completely detached from your front line of focus. So, there's no major insight there, but maybe that's a good thing to see that he's a normal guy off the field.
It's actually a fitting fixture to discuss this, because now in 2025, when I go back all those years to what happened in South Africa, what led to Steve losing the captaincy, it almost seems like, my God, how much did we overdo that, or how much did we sort of blow that out of proportion? And those images of Steve Smith in tears and all, they almost, you look back at it and it breaks your heart. And the journey has that been completely put behind by Steve? We're all much happier seeing him as captain again, when there was a time we thought that day may never come. Ashton?
Yeah, I mean, such a difficult experience, and he's had to live that, and he's also had to live the consequences of that. And, he did his time, and he's copped untold amounts of criticism. It would have affected him, it affected his family, and it affected his friends as well. But now he's out of the other side of that. He's the Steve Smith that we all know and love. He's an unbelievable player. He's a very good human. He's a guy that the dressing room really enjoys, a very popular member of the group, and one of the guys you want to just see being extremely successful, because I truly believe he's a fantastic role model for the game. He inspires the younger generation to really follow their heart and also trust the way that they go about their game. I think his technique is not something you see in a manual or not something that is taught, and that should inspire people to play the way that they feel will work.
Firdaus, would you like to render an apology on behalf of the Republic of South Africa, perhaps?
No, I mean, I must say, when the whole thing happened, we thought it was a completely strange and over-the-top reaction. South Africa is a country with actual crime, and it didn't seem like something where that kind of response was needed. And it was quite something to witness firsthand, this kind of complete meltdown of Australian cricket and people in positions of leadership losing that. And, of course, that test match at the Wanderers then became almost quite a sad affair, really, and we'd never really experienced anything like it. And that was really a zenith point for South Africa. They beat Australia at home, and then from there was the great decline, which I think they've only started to climb out of now. So the series had a big impact in South Africa as well.
All right, fair enough. Well, just on Steve Smith, the batter himself now, he's loving the captaincy. He marshalled his bowlers particularly well, you'd think, when he won key periods of the innings against England. His own batting form, and he wouldn't be the only great player of his time. It was perhaps just in need of a big score. It almost seems inevitable it'll happen at some point. But Steve Smith, as we just break down what his ODI numbers have been since 2023, he's still waiting for 100 in, I think, about 30 innings. We saw what a great player can do in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, Wasim, didn't he, when he was short of runs. Do you expect Steve Smith to find form in this tournament as well?
Oh, 100%. I mean, and the conditions are really, really good to bat. Pakistan wickets or even when he goes to Dubai. They are good batting wickets, and I personally feel obviously that this format is probably the easiest among all the other formats to make runs. It's only about spending time in the middle. Once he does that, once he spends 5-10 overs, he'll be good. It's pretty similar to what we spoke about Ken Williamson. If he spends time, they know how to make runs and they know how to make hundreds. So he's just went in and got out cheaply. Which can happen, but a good score is around the corner, I feel.
All right. Well, we hope that we get to see Steve Smith coming into this game in this when we do get the rain clearing. Covers are still on at Rawalpindi. So just before we perhaps wrap things up, before we have a little more news for you, let's talk about the unsung South African or the unknown South African elements in this. Ryan Rickelton, for those we didn't know if he's going to get a game, got it only because of Heinrich Klaassen. We hope to see Klaassen back. Player of his caliber should make this team sooner rather than later. But tell us a little bit about the players that a lot of us may not have seen much of. Ryan Rickelton, Rian Mulder. What's the South African story from your point of view?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those two, Ryan Rickelton and Rian Mulder, because they actually went to the same school. And that's a school that recently had 4 players in the same Test 11. So it's St. Stidion's school in Johannesburg. Ryan Rickelton, Rian Mulder, Kagiso Rabada also there. And young Kwena Mapaka has just finished his studies at St. Stidion's as well. And Ryan Rickelton's dad, Ian, was the director of sport at the school. So when I say a prestigious school, I mean, I want you to imagine massive sports fields, huge facilities, really elite facilities. And this is where the sort of breeding ground for South African sports people happens most of the time. And St. Stidion's has established itself as the school to go to if you want to become an international cricketer. So Ryan obviously went there through his dad having the job there. It's a very expensive school as well. It's somewhere where, you know, if you don't have good financial means, you will need some kind of scholarship. And he was living on the school grounds, so he had access to everything. He played every sport, played a little bit of tennis, did some athletics, some hockey, some rugby, and excelled at cricket. And he would take his dad with him down to the nets and say, please, can you throw some balls at me? And his dad was quite strong in saying, if you want to practice, you've got to ask me. I'm not going to force you to do it. And Ryan Rickelton is one of the most incredibly disciplined players I've come across. He actually reads a book called Discipline is Destiny. And it's one of these kind of philosophical books. He puts it away for T20s because he doesn't want any discipline there. But I know he's taken it with him to Pakistan. And he's reading it at the moment. Him and Tony DeZorzi actually share. I don't know if it's the same copy. Maybe they each have their own one. And it's just been a magnificent few months for him. He's done so well across formats. We saw that double 100 in the New Year's Test match and then some great innings in the SA20. And now an ODI 100 and in his first ICC match, so ICC event match. So I think what we're seeing from Ryan Rickelton is an ability to really apply different tempos in different formats because he can bat all day, in fact, for 2 days, as he did in Cape Town. And then he can also learn to really pace a one-day knock, a 20-over knock. And I think he'll be one of the greats. Let's not forget, he's also a wicketkeeper, and I know he's working really hard on that aspect of his game. He didn't think he had a great game against Afghanistan, and I think he wants to improve on that. So he's a versatile player, an all-format player, with a great backstory. And then just to touch on Rian Mulder kind of made headlines in South Africa when he arrived at the Wanderers in his school uniform. He's going to change out of it and play in his first provincial match. And since then, he's gone through a real dip in that he lost confidence. He wasn't really sure what his place in the side will be. He's kind of the fourth seamer, but also supposed to bat at number 7 and wasn't so good at that seam bowling role. But I think in the last year, he's really matured his game, and we're seeing that he understands. He's got a containing bowling role, and he's really improved his batting.
Yep, absolutely. I've actually been to St. Stidion's, and I've seen firsthand, 12 full-size rugby grounds, 6 full-size cricket grounds, another half a dozen hockey grounds. So you're looking at acres and acres of space. World class. You could have a world event over there and you'd be fine. I mean, that's just how good it is. I went there to interview Kagiso Rabada's younger brother when he was 12, 13, and I bowled a ball to him in the nets. And he was beaten for a lack of pace. He genuinely didn't expect a ball to come to him so slow. But anyway, thank you for that, Firdaus. That's brilliant information. Let's just wrap things up here. But Ashton, if we do get a reduced game, does it in any way affect who would fancy that or who would be favourites? Would you say Australia are favourites today regardless with how they played against England?
Well, I mean, if you look at the stats probably suggest not, but maybe in ICC tournaments, yes. Both teams starting really well. I think this is the most evenly balanced match of the whole tournament, which is something that's really exciting, something the viewers should be excited about. In skill and in temperament, I would say, like we've spoken about the whole time, the South Africans and Australians have a very similar attitude towards the game. We play hard against each other and we bring out the best in each other, and it often leads to a tight contest. So super exciting. If it's rain reduced, well, I don't think there is any upper hand to any of the teams. Both teams have been playing some good white ball cricket recently, so it should make it an even more exciting contest because maybe the batters will swing a bit harder.
Yeah, I think we have up to 60 minutes before we lose overs. We should have had the toss a little while back. We haven't yet. I am told the Rawalpindi drainage is pretty good. They don't even cover the entire ground, just the centre square. So once we do get better weather, I'm sure we'll have cricket. Let's hope for that, because this is a huge game, especially with semi-finals race. England would be keeping an eye on how things go here. If there is points to be split, that may actually benefit Josh Butler's side. But anyway, all that for later. Nothing right now. Wasim Jaffer, this is, I guess, where we take a break. Firdaus, Ashton Agar, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts. More when we have some cricket, and we'll be with you after that on Maruti Suzuki Arena Presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.